Hi, I'm Ann with Kai Dragon Gardening and Cooking Channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about some huge mistakes that you can make in the garden so that way you prevent them before they even happen. I always take notes so I don't forget what I'm going to talk about, so I got to put on my readers. Getting a little bit old there. First off, know your zone. Check to see what zone you live in, because every zone has different plants that are going to thrive better than others, and different ways of growing things. They all have different obstacles that they have to go through when they're doing their garden. So you want to know what zone you're in. Currently we're in zones 5 through 7. I say that because I bounce back and forth between homes during the summer. I'm spending a little bit of time this year with my son, but I live a little over an hour away, so just by traveling that much I will go into a different zone, and I set up gardens that I do with a friend of mine there too, so I have to keep in mind my zones. So you want to know when to start your seedlings indoors, so that way you know about what time they're going to be ready to go outdoors. And it's a good practice to make sure that your seedlings are at least a good 2 or 3 inches tall before you're taking them outdoors. So check your frost dates and your seed packets for your germination time. Use a large enough container to allow proper plant growth before transplanting those seedlings outdoors. And if you're starting them inside during the winter months to get them ready for spring, then once they get a certain tallness and you are in no danger now of the frost and the weather temperatures start cooling down, it's a good idea to get the plants used to going outside before you are putting them in the ground. And you can do that by taking the seed trays outdoors for periods of time, leaving them out in the sun. Also, when you have them inside under the grow lamp, turn a fan on. So a fan on a low speed represents the wind blowing and stuff, and it'll help get the stems a little stronger, because you want a good strong seedling when you're taking it out to plant outdoors. So make sure you have some patience, because if you plant the seeds too soon, you might be transplanting your plants twice, because if they get too small too large for the little trays and you have to put them in another pot, that's fine. But the more you have to plant them into something else before you put them in the ground or the raised bed that they're going into, the harder it is on that plant, because every time it's getting transplanted somewhere else, it is going to go through plant shock. So you want to keep that in mind. I start with a larger type pot. I do have one somewhere here. This size or a little bit smaller is a great way to start out. Usually just a tad smaller than this. That way I'm not replanting something all the time. those are great for like tomato plants, pepper plants, things that are gonna get pretty good size. I like to start my seeds in something bigger than that. I have found that, and we're not affiliated because we're a small channel starting out. So that's something we're going to work on in the next few years. But I have found that the Pro Mix is a very fine mixture of soil, and it does work well just like your starter mix. So if you are using a bigger container, the Pro Mix does work really great for putting your seeds in for starting. So plant your cool crops at the start of the garden season. Your warm weather plants such as tomatoes and peppers need a later start. You can wait until the soil temperature is around 55 to 60 degrees. You just don't want to plant too early. So check your frost dates. If there is a chance for a frost or a snow or something after you get something planted, make sure that you do keep some old sheets on hand, or you can get the frost cloth to put on the ground and secure it with the little fabric pins. So it'll just help protect those plants so that way they don't freeze and die on you, and that all that work went down the drain. Make sure you check your soil before you start, because it can cause issues if you don't know what type of soil you have. Some things that you plant need a little more acidic soil than others. Most plants just require a rich, well-draining soil, and I like to make sure that I add compost to my soil mixture. So most of the soil that we make up when we're doing our gardens is usually 2 bags of topsoil, a third a bag of the sphagnum peat moss, a big 2-gallon bucket of like the vermiculite, or the I can't think of the name of the other stuff now, but I'm perlite. I like to put some of that stuff in there. A big 40-pound bag of compost, and I mix all that stuff up really well, and I kind of see how the soil feels and stuff, and then I may add another bag or 2 of topsoil to the mix. But your sphagnum helps hold the moisture, but the other stuff you want to make sure that it's still going to drain well and not be so packed that it becomes hard like clay. So you don't want that either. So mixing all that stuff up and mixing it up with your pre-existing soil that you have, and if you have a tiller, those are great. Working this stuff back into the ground with a tiller is awesome, but make sure that you do know where your water lines and gas lines and different things are, because you don't want to be using a tiller and not know where something is. It's the same way with digging. You want to know where things are in the ground, so you are not doing something that's going to cost you a fortune or may hurt someone or yourself. So make sure you do that. Use your garden beds wisely. Get you those little hand trowels and stuff, even the heavy rakes, and work that soil back and forth, loosen it up. But check your soil, make sure that it's got the right pH level and stuff for the plants. Follow the instructions. Not paying attention to the directions on your seed packets can cause you some issues. They need the proper spacing to ensure the plant growth, which is especially good to remember for your root crops, like carrots, beets, radishes, turnips. There's a lot of different root crops. But when you're spacing those, if you have not left enough space between those, or the seeds are real small and there's too many seeds went down and they're all coming up together, but you didn't pull some of that, you're going to be pulling up little spindles of carrots because they had no room to grow, and you're going to be highly disappointed. So you want to make sure that you're leaving enough spacing so that way that plant, when it's under the ground, is going to have plenty of growing room. So make sure that you're leaving enough space. Check for your companion plants. Remember, don't plant cucumbers near squash or melons and vice versa. You want to avoid cross-pollination. That is another big mistake people make, and I happened to do that one year by accident. I had planted some cucumbers and decided to plant some watermelons and forgot there was a squash plant in there. Needless to say, I had some pretty weird watermelons, and they were great for target practice, but they really were not very good to eat. So that's another mistake that people make in the garden without thinking about it. Don't forget to fertilize. You have to feed your plants with a well-balanced plant food, because without it, your plants are going to have slow growth, lack of flowering, a poor root system. So give your plant the food that it needs to maintain that excellent growth and production. You want a strong root foundation for your plants. Water wisely. If it's been raining for several days, you don't need to go out and water. Make sure that your plants have enough water to maintain good soil moisture. Use your finger, test the soil. Too much can take away the oxygen, then the roots can't breathe. It can also cause root rot. So don't overwater. Wait for the top inch of soil to dry. Use your fingers, test the soil before you water again. Don't neglect the weeds. Don't let the weeds take over. Keep the weeds pulled and away from your plants' roots, because they compete for the nutrients that your plants need, and your pests are highly attracted to weeds. So if you want more pests trying to take over the food that you're growing, then don't weed your garden. And you're going to see what havoc shows up because you did not pay attention to the weeds. Don't let them take over your garden beds. So keep those weeds pulled. Make sure to plant deterrent flowers such as marigolds, nasturtiums, and also zinnias. They're great trap plants. They also help bring in the pollinators too. And don't plant things that your family doesn't like to eat. I mean, planting your least favorite foods in the garden is fine if you want to experiment with the different vegetables and herbs and stuff, but don't plant something that nobody's going to eat just because you wanted to grow it. I mean, sometimes you plant stuff that you can't even give away because nobody knows how to fix it. They don't have a recipe. They're not sure whether it tastes good. You should know when you grow something if you like to eat it. So if you're experimenting, that's wonderful. There's a lot of different recipes out there. There's a lot of different vegetables and things that I want to try that, they say, oh, this tastes like this. But you don't know until you try it. It's just like cauliflower, they say, is a great substitute for potatoes. And I have fixed cauliflower like potatoes, and they have worked like potatoes. Just one thing though, if you let cauliflower get cold after you mash it and do all the stuff, and you serve it up like potatoes, it does not taste good at all. It needs to stay warm, and then it makes a great substitute for potatoes. Some people use cauliflower for pizza crust, and I actually do like that. So cauliflower is another one of those vegetables that has so many different uses, and you can experiment and do a lot with it. So keep that kind of stuff in mind, though. If you know for a fact that your family does not like it, or somebody in the family is highly allergic, don't bother planting that. Trade with somebody else that you know that's gardening, or grow something different. There's so many different things out there that you can grow, that you can experiment with, and they are coming out with new vegetables all the time, new different hybrids and stuff. So make sure that you plan ahead. I really stress keeping a journal in the garden for so many different reasons, and like I said, I'll go through that on another video. But keep notes. Don't plant more than you can eat or store. Consider how much time you actually have. If you don't have the space, and you don't have the time, and you can't freeze, and you can't can everything you grow, give it away to somebody who's going to love and enjoy it. Don't let it go to waste. You can always put it back in the ground. I guess it's compost, but you grew it because you wanted to eat it, and it's a shame to waste that, especially all your efforts. Just plant wisely. Never throw in the towel. Your garden needs you. Make it beautiful. It's a reflection of you. Enjoy your garden. Make it a place of serenity, peacefulness, and joy. Have fun in your garden. Make it a pet-safe environment. Let your children help with the harvest, with some of the planting. Sometimes you can do everything right, but mishaps, they just happen, and things can go wrong. There's going to be unexpected challenges in a garden, but life simply happens. Find ways to overcome some of the challenges that are within your control. Enjoy what you do. The reward from growing your own food is unmeasurable. There's a wonderful feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction for a job well done. Love your garden. Make it a paradise for you. You want to remember, when you are doing garden, it's a great hobby. It's a great pastime. If you do it well, you can make it so beautiful that you can spend hours out there just enjoying watching the pollinators come in. And this year, my son has lived here probably about 5 years. I have extended this garden to where it is monstrous. We have used every bit of garden space I think that was possible, and I have looked at more ways of doing vertical gardening, and I'm already planning out different things to do different for next year. So that's why I stress keeping a journal, because you don't ever end up doing the same thing. You want to change it up, and you don't really want to plant the same crops in the same space every year if you can help it. You want to switch it up. So I like to think ahead, think outside the box, what might work and what might not work. I know strawberries, that's one thing that once they're in the garden bed, I'm not going to move a whole bed of strawberries. We have them growing in raised bed. I'm going to leave them in that raised bed. And last year, the winter was just kind of weird, and something happened, and he lost all his strawberries, and so we had to start over. So when they finally put strawberry plants on sale, we were both out there buying all kinds of different strawberries, and every time, we wanted the ones with the runners so we could get more strawberries going. we didn't worry so much about the fruit production because we wanted more strawberries. Now that the bed is fairly full, next year I'm going to concentrate on the fruit production of those strawberries, and I will have them well covered this winter. You can get the plastic clear tarps. We're going to do some experimenting through the winter with that, try and grow some fall veggies into the winter months. So keep sowing and growing and having yourself a wonderful adventure. Make your garden be something that you are proud of. We've given a few garden tours this year and people have been amazed, and then when he tells me about it, it's a really good feeling, you know, to know I did that. I made something beautiful, and I've been obsessed, you could say, with hummingbirds since I was a little girl. My dad died when I was 4 years old. He was working in an oil field, and it rained the night before, and it's really a very sad story. But he was very young. He was in his 20s. My mom was a young mother, and I had one sister at the time, and she was a couple years younger than me, and I will never forget all these people coming to the house, and they were crying, and I said, "Oh, Daddy will be home soon." And I didn't know that my dad was gone. It had rained the night before, and the power was supposed to be off, and it wasn't, and he got electrocuted, and it killed him instantly. And if he wouldn't have called out the way he did, my mom would have lost her brother and her husband. So my uncle survived and my dad died, but the memory that I have is I was probably maybe 3 years old. I was always out. We had hummingbirds. I was always trying to catch them, and my dad would tell me, don't try to catch them, you're going to hurt them, and then you won't be able to watch them fly around the flowers anymore. So you need to leave the hummingbirds alone and just watch them and look at how beautiful they are. That memory of him's just stuck in my head, and so I've kind of been obsessed with hummingbirds. And we had hummingbird moths and other beautiful pollinators, lots of beautiful butterflies this year in the garden. I planted a lot of different types of flowers to help bring in the pollinators, which I will talk about that on another video too. But we finally had hummingbirds, and the red ruby-throated hummingbird has visited, and I was using the hummingbird feeders as butterfly waterers, but it didn't matter to them. They found them, and they have been coming back, and I was excited that after 5 years the hummingbirds have found us. So that was exciting for me, and I look forward to coming out to the garden and waiting and watching for them to show up while I'm having a cold drink and watching to see if they're going to come back, you know. It's just kind of exciting. So whatever kind of excitement you can make happen in your garden, just do it. Make it something that you are proud of, and get out there and enjoy it. Learn from your mistakes and try not to make them again. I hope you got something out of this video today. I hope you enjoyed watching. You guys are like an extension of our family. We appreciate you. We hope someday we can get to at least 1,000 subscribers. We're new, we're small, we're starting out, but I have a lot of knowledge of gardening from all the years that I've gardened myself, and I'm in my late 60s. My mother gardened for years. I grew up on a farm, Grandma also gardened, and you know, she told me stories of her grandma. So there's a lot of knowledge in this little head of mine, and I want to share some cool things with you. So one thing I'll leave you with before I go is hit that notification button so that way you're updated when we release more videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about us, because we count on you, because word of mouth is the best advertisement around for almost anything that you can do. And don't be melancholy. You're in a garden. Let us remain happy. Kai Dragon Gardening is gardening with fire. We love you. Stay blessed.